Em nome da SP-Arte, eu quero agradecer a todo mundo que está aqui, veio ver essa conversa que vai ser muito especial. Essa conversa vai ser em inglês, então eu vim aqui apresentá-los, os participantes, o Jaume Plensa e o Marcello Dantas. Então eu vou começar já a apresentação em inglês. Jaume, born in Barcelona, is internationally recognized as one of today's leading contemporary portrait artists. He studied at, what's the name of the school? Locha School of Art and Design and Jordi School of Fine Arts. Over the past 35 years, he has created sculptures and installations that unify individuals through connections of spirituality, the body, and collective memory. Literature, psychology, biology, language, and history have been key guiding elements throughout his career. Jaume has received numerous awards, including the prestigious Velázquez Prize for the Arts in 2013, and was awarded an honorary doctorate of the Universitat Autònoma Barcelona in 2019 and University of Notre Dame in 2024. Marcello Dantas is an award-winning interdisciplinary curator and director. He graduated in film and television for NYU and postgraduated in their interactive telecommunications program. With the extensive activity in Brazil and internationally, he investigates the border between art and technology, producing and conceptualizing exhibitions, museums, and multiple projects that seek to create experience through sense and perception. Marcello was responsible for the conception of Museu da Língua Portuguesa in Japan House here in São Paulo, Museu da Natureza in Serra da Capivara, Piauí, and in exhibitions such as Anish Kapoor's Inflamação that happened in Cidade Matarazzo, Ai Weiwei Raiz right here at Oca, and he curated Jaume Plensa's exhibition in Rio de Janeiro, Curitiba, and Porto Alegre, to name a few, and I'll give you the word. It is an honor for SP-Arte to have you both here. I'll give you the word.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Good to be with you here again, Jaume. We've had so many conversations in different places.
It's hard for me to understand. I mean, the noise.
The noise. So I'll speak even louder.
Speak a little higher, yes. Sorry about that. I mean, it's...
So, if we're talking about loudness, let's begin with a good question for you, which is, how do you differentiate space from volume?
I thought you was a friend. Well, I guess it's very interesting because it's the same to say body and soul.
Yeah.
I guess we are talking about the same. As you know, maybe my work has been always concentrated about the humanity, about the soul, about the body, but the space, I think, is the same. A container with volumes. And many times they relate a sculpture with the things that you mentioned, but I'm not sure if it's exactly like that for me. I mean, I guess a sculpture is much strongly related with time, for example, and spirituality. I spent all my life trying to make visible the invisible. You remember, that was our discussion in Curitiba, in Porto Alegre, in Rio de Janeiro. This idea to try to make visible the invisible. Normally, the most important things in life are invisible. And I'm a sculptor. How to manage, that is the thing.
Yeah. And we used, when we made the exhibition in Curitiba and Porto Alegre, we mentioned the relationship between the invisible and the unmentionable, the indizível, what you cannot say. So there are things that you can not see, and there are things that you cannot even say.
I remember the title of the show was beautiful. You maybe could say in Portuguese.
O invisível e o indizível.
That was amazing. I think was very beautiful because many times as an artist you feel you have not the capacity to got it. This lack in your way to really catch the most important things. And a sculptor, I think, is one probably the best ways to try to get it. I'm from the Mediterranean area. It means that I need to caress everything, to touch. My eyes are in my fingers. That means that I even try to understand this invisibility that we were talking before. For example, yesterday I opened a show right here in Sao Paulo at Leme Gallery, and it's two pieces mainly. One in front of the other. One is a figure, a human body, a human figure, made out with alphabets from many different cultures. And right in front is the hanging head with the finger in the lips, asking silence. Not shut up, but asking this exactly, something be calm. The opposite of we are here. To be calm. I guess the world, unfortunately, is in a completely crazy moment. I guess all around the world, it's plenty of stupid wars. Humanity is suffering a lot. It's a very strange time with borders and flags. Okay, I guess the right answer is not to scream more, is to try to ask silence, to try to listen again our soul, our vibrations, our thoughts. And the show was a little bit that silent conversation between two persons. In between you and I is an incredible emptiness, full of energy. And that for me probably is the volume that you mentioned.
The volume.
And the space.
The volume is the space in between.
Is the space in between.
Yeah. And how do you I remember visiting your studio, and I remember also seeing many of the models that you've used to make artworks. And I find it fascinating that your process of sculpting, I always remember that figure that I brought to Brazil, that you start by actually adding rather than subtracting things. How's your process? I mean, how do you relate to material in the sense as subtraction or addition?
It's hard for me to say, because every time I'm trying to understand what is my procedure, I'm changing again the way or the kind of pieces that I'm doing. I could say that my team in the studio is always much happier when I'm traveling than when I'm there. Mm-hmm. That means that it's always a permanent conflict trying to catch or to recognize when the piece is in the right track. My process is very intimate, even if I'm working with a big team. Even if I'm working in the public fields, I'm working a lot in the public spaces, yes, as you know.
We're going to talk about that.
But I'm trying to introduce something that it's for me very important, which is the most intimate part of me. It's to try to share my dreams with somebody else that I never met before. People that I could not recognize, that will be around my work, or nobody. For example, I have a very beautiful piece in the north of Sweden, maybe 2 hours drive up from the west coast of Sweden, and there's nobody there. It's the piece is 14 meters tall. It's in a little island, completely wild. Maybe it's 15 visitors per year. I think it's fantastic, because even without people, the sculpture exists and is there. And I think that is a very important message. Art is illuminating life. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the good message in my way.
What is a good reason to make art?
What is the good?
What is a good reason to make art?
The good reason.
Reason. Give me the difficult ones.
Mamma mia, ay, Marcello.
I have a good answer for that.
I don't know. Honestly, I've been teaching twice in my life.
Yeah.
One in the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris.
Yes.
And another in the School of the Art Institute in Chicago. And I fell in both cases. I stopped to do it because the teacher is one, but the students are the same level, are also artists like you, in a different moment of the road.
Yeah.
And it was so complicated for me to try to recommend or to advise something. I think the only advice for them was trust on you. And I guess art has a tremendous capacity to give you a certain courage to continue to walk. And I think that it's the most beautiful part, because I have nothing to say to students or nobody. The problem is every day opening the door of the studio, what to do with myself. I mean, is enough, you know. And the mystery or the magic moment is when the piece exists beside you and it starts alone another path that you could not control anymore. Yeah. And I think that it's good, because many people feel stronger with the strength and the courage to do art themselves or to love art. And I think today it's probably the most important thing. Art is becoming again very important and something that we need as ever in the moment of the world of today.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, you basically said what I expected, which is so that it continues to exist. That's a good reason to make art, so that it continues to exist. You know. A lot of your work isn't confined in galleries. A lot of your work is in public spaces. And how do you relate into creating work for public spaces rather than for private enclosed spaces? Because you are engaging with a certain dynamic. You're engaging with a city, with a movement, with other reasons, with people that are not there necessarily to engage with the artwork. Do you have any stories that happened with your artwork in relation to being in the public space that you would love to?
Well, you know, I mean, today we are in the art fair of Sao Paulo. Could be the biennial, could be a group show in a museum. When it's many artists all together, you still feel even stronger that every artist is a message in a bottle.
Yes.
Every artist is one possibility. Mm-hmm. You are one more. And obviously it's very important because it's yours, but it's one more. It's one more. And it's the same like the life of every one of you is your life. You could not exchange with another.
Yeah.
And I think art has very clear that problem. It's not a problem of to be a big ego. It's nothing else than is yours. And I guess you must to insist and to work very hard to impose your ideas, but not because they are better, because it's just yours. And I think that is very beautiful. Yesterday we were at the museum, and I was very happy to see again the installation of paintings fixed on glass panels. Mm-hmm. I think the architect who decided that was brilliant.
Yeah,
because you see through all the paintings. It's nothing blind your vision in between that painting is better than the other. No, it's your choice. But every painting is trying to resist. You know, it's resisting there. I think it was a fantastic visit.
Yeah, yeah. It's like each one is a citizen in its own right in the public square.
Yeah, but it becomes a piece in itself. The installation, this room, paintings. It was funny. I was with Mary Sabatino there, and we said, "Well, it looks like a Modigliani. Maybe it's Modigliani." It was Modigliani. Oh, it looks like the Braque. It was everything. It looks like was.
It was confirmed.
It was an emotion. Every stop was an emotion, and also to look at the back side of the paintings. It's one of my obsessions. The back side of the sculptures, because it's very important to know to where the sculptor is looking at, mm-hmm. to where the painting is looking at as well, because a painting is also an object in itself. It's 3D. It's not flat. Yeah. There's plenty of life behind. Well, it was a fantastic visit. I recommend you the visit. Probably you know.
The painting has volume.
I don't know.
But I was going to ask you about if there was any moment in your experience in the public. I mean, when I think of the Crown Fountain, when I think of things you've done in public space that has changed the way a city lives.
Yeah.
and what we did in Rio.
Yeah.
And I mean, do you have any recollections or stories of works placed in the public sphere that the placement changed your perception of your work or added something to your life?
Well, the Crown Fountain was a key piece in my career, obviously. It was in 2004. Last year was the 20th anniversary of the piece. And it was a very strong and powerful decision to use the inhabitants of the city for the piece. I was filming by video 1,000 faces of people living in town and transforming them into gargoyles, spouting water from their mouth, real water, which I think is fantastic because I love the concept of alphabets. That means that the voice is the music of our body. Then the mouth is the way to communicate with all of you. And water is the real subject and material. And it was beautiful. I was filming the shortcuts, and I asked, could you put the lips in the same shape as you're blowing a candle? And they closed their eyes with this. And we did the shortcuts for the video. And then we add real water in.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. That was the memories of my childhood when in Barcelona, walking at the Gothic area, it was plenty of gargoyles with very grotesque faces, animals in a very strange position, spouting the water when we're raining. And I introduced again in the public space this one. But the main thing was a big reflecting pool in where people was possible to walk on it. It was just 3 millimeters of water that you can walk on it, and you feel part of the same land.
No.
My obsession is to put always people together, to create gathering places in where to be. I guess a sculptor has that capacity. And we did something similar in Rio de Janeiro together. When we had the capacity, thanks to your insistence, to install the piece in the water of Botafogo.
Yeah.
I guess was one of the top moments in my life. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because you probably remember the same night that we finished to install the piece, one close friend of me died in Mallorca.
Yes.
In the water as well.
In the water.
It was a very strange moment. My piece just was born there,
Yeah.
and he disappeared. I mean, it's something that's very strange. The piece is now at the Pérez Museum in Miami.
Yeah.
I asked the museum to install the piece closer to the water. And every time that we are in Miami, it's an emotion because I still remember it was a bank in Rio de Janeiro who did the publicity with the photo of our piece and the sugar loaf on the other side.
Yeah.
And it says, we already knew that Rio is beautiful, but now is unforgettable. And I think it was a beautiful concept that art could add these extra things in one place.
Yeah. The fact that you can create a dialogue with the scale of a sugar loaf and the mountains and everything, and still create a dialogue, not be eaten by it.
Yeah, but it's crazy if you think Rio de Janeiro don't need nothing else. You believe that, but it's possible to breathe a new soul.
Yeah.
And well, the photos of that moment was really fantastic.
Yeah, it's quite memorable. I have the same. You've been in the art world for a long time, and you've seen the changes over the past 4 decades of how people have related to art. You know, before iPhones, before their participation into things, before a change in the ethos of society. How do you feel it has changed from your practice from 40 years ago to now and how do you see the art world around you?
I don't know what to say, honestly. I mean, every time I'm trying to make my life easier, because I believe that the time is to go fast and everybody is well connected. My materials are more heavy and difficult to move. I mean, I'm casting cast iron again I become very well known thanks to the cast iron in the 80s. But now I'm working the more and more with the stone. Very complicated pieces, very heavy pieces. Wow. But in the other hand, I believe that the wall is so well connected, apparently. But I'm obsessed now to try to create pieces that remains. Why? Because I still remember many years ago, I've been in Wisconsin, and in front of the lake it was a very big storm, and it was bears flying around, and suddenly it was a pole rising off from the water, and the bird just stopped on top of the pole, in the middle of the storm. And I understood that the sculpture should be something like that, a place in where you can always return.
A place that
you can return.
That you can return.
A place to be. To create a place in where people could share something, a dream together. It's not an object, it's one space. You was asking me about volume and space. Because it's not several square meters. It's something here and here in your heart. It's a space in your capacity to embrace life and embrace the others. I think sculpture has this tremendous capacity to talk with the divinities. I don't know which one, but something that you need to breathe again. Okay?
Create place. To create. Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
but I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned, because when you mentioned, 20 years ago you were doing a digital work, and today you are playing more and more with stone, which is a very ancient form of making sculpture, which is fantastic. But so I can see a thread that you're going into even more material, even more physical, as it goes.
Yeah, but it's funny because even using so opaque and heavier material, I guess my work is the more and more talking about invisibility that I mentioned before. The show in Curitiba was a good example for me about that, because it was some pieces with the transparency of the metal and the light was passing in between. Other pieces very solid and opaque. In this big eye of Oscar Niemeyer that makes everything a little bit surreal. That was a good I think it was a good illustration of what the art could be also, because we are floating in a kind of space in between. And I guess my work now it's very concerned about the situation in the world. Honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed about what we are doing with our lives, with our countries, with our borders. I'm from the Mediterranean area, and you probably follow in the news. The Mediterranean becomes a big cemetery of people trying to arrive from Africa to cross to Europe. It's terrible because it's people that they are trying to reach a better life, something better for their kids. Okay, and many times I'm desperate, thinking that maybe art has not the capacity enough to help these people or to help this situation to change. And that makes me crazy sometimes, because you believe that art has a tremendous capacity to transform life, and many times you feel that maybe we need more time. But okay, now it's done. I don't know.
Maybe we need to do that. What are the only three things that matter in sculpture? What are the only three things that matter in sculpture?
Three things?
Three. You mentioned you've said that.
Well, I guess the three main things in a sculpture are scale. The rest it's just details, little details. That's
scales and details. Let's go a little bit political, Jaume. When people ask where are you from, what do you answer?
When
people ask you where are you from, what do you answer?
Well, I'm always talking about that I'm from the Mediterranean, and my country's name is My country's name is Laura. I mentioned many times. Laura is my country.
Laura is your country. Laura is just there. Laura Nation.
Well, it's not bad.
Yeah. And I always had a question about how do you select people to be represented in your work? Because you have many people, like Awilda was a girl in the Caribbean that you didn't know, right? People that you just meet casually may become sculptures of yours. How do you approach people to become a model for a sculpture?
You know, I mean, normally people believe that the sculptor is a technical problem, but I disagree completely. Technique could be learned, you could improve. I guess it's the quality of the human being, the first or the most important. I'm always trying to catch the feeling of the person. Everyone, we have an aura. And I still remember the first time I've been in your country. It was 50 years ago, in 75. I came, it was my first trip out of my country. It was the first trip out of Spain. It was to Sao Paulo and to Rio, to try to follow all this spirit of Macumba, all these things that I was very interested. And I never forgot to be in the ceremonies with Mai de Santos or Pai de Santos, to look at the aura of people, to the aura around. And I guess a sculptor has a lot of things to talk about it. This idea that we are not only materials, but a spirit. We are not only a body, but a soul. We are not a container, but plenty of messages. And I said this country has so much in that way to teach us. I learn a lot from your country.
Thank you. This is beautiful to hear, and it's when you mention that, I can connect with many different moments of your life that you are trying to represent that connection between body and soul. That has to do with candomblé. That has to do with Brazilian.
For sure.
I always, you've always mentioned when you talk about your work, music. But I've never seen you use music in any exhibition, except as a written form, but not as the wave form.
Yeah, well, I explained many times that when I was a little child, a little boy, many times I was fighting with my brother, and I hidden myself inside the piano of my father. My father has a vertical piano with two sliding doors, and I hidden myself besides the harp, which is a triangle. And many times my father was playing the piano without the knowledge that I was in. And it was unforgettable. I realize now that how important it was, because I was part of the vibrations of the instrument. And I guess that it's really important to be part of this moment that everything is vibrating at the same time. Okay, I guess music is the vibration of something. And when we are talking, we are playing the instrument of our body, making some notes which is we can write down. It's a score, which is a text, and it's the voice of each of us that other people could play again. I think it's beautiful. I've been working a lot with alphabets, as you know.
Yeah.
But alphabets as music, alphabets as a score of a music of each of us could play. Many times I'm traveling in the world and I could not understand the language of they are speaking. But even like that, I could recognize how beautiful it is. It's even the music. When you listen to music, I don't play nothing. I'm zero with music. But I could cry with a symphony over music. You was mentioning before somebody talking 25 hours.
Yeah, yesterday.
Well, that is a symphony, a long symphony this guy did. No?
That's one of the most remarkable performance artworks that happened yesterday.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, in the Capitol of the United States Senate. That.
Maybe somebody has a question.
Yes. Does anybody have a question? A gente tem microfone para perguntas?
Hello? Okay.
I was a bit lip reading because it's really
Difficult to
long.
listen. Yeah.
It's very difficult. I was wondering, ideally, what would you prefer? I'm not sure how your works have been developed or the commissions, but would you rather have produce a work for a space, for a location, or find a location for a work that you have or that you have in your head?
Well, both are possible, but normally it's the space who choose you. Normally people invite you in one museum, in one gallery, in one public space, say, could you imagine or could you think about it? And then it's a shock. You spend a few weeks completely in crisis, and then you relieve a little bit because you try to find the dream that you can share with the space. The space is something that exists with or without you. In the opposite, when you are working privately in your studio, you are creating permanently the space of the pieces. It's not a problem. The piece exists with or without a space, or with or without a place to show. For me, it's important in that aspect of my work, that every piece is in some ways autonomous. It has this autonomy.
Hi, Jaime. I'd like you to let me know how technology impacts your work today.
Well, I mean, as always in the different moments of art history, I guess artists are using the tools of their time. I'm using everything because my obsession is to answer the same questions, but with the tools of my time. Obviously, I'm using all the technology, but I could tell you that still a hammer is the highest technology for the purpose to use, being used. I'm using technology, video or computers, mill machines, that doesn't matter, everything. The importance is the piece in the end. I guess the piece is the document, not the process, it's the piece in itself. Well, I believe that.
Yeah. The piece is the process.
The piece is the process and the final document.
Yeah.
It is.
You accumulate layers and layers and layers of technological knowledge and crafts and ability and human skills, and then the piece becomes the evidence
Absolutely.
of a process. Alguém mais?
Well,
Ok. Bom, muito obrigado. Thank you so much, Jaume.
it was a pleasure, my dear.
It's always a pleasure to
Thank
be with
you.
you.